What's going on, everybody? I recently made a shorts video, you might have seen it or not, about my Section 8 income. And yes, I do have over $500,000 in Section 8 income in just 3 years. That's actually an actual number. So I wanted to take the time, because I got a lot of questions about it, how to get into it and stuff like that. So I want to take the time I'm going to break down from start to finish how the Section 8 process works, because a lot of people just don't know. So I'm going to tell you start to finish how to get involved in Section 8. And again, I'm only going to use the Corpus Christi Housing Authority as an example, because that's the only one I personally have experience with. I can't speak to your housing authority, but I imagine it's a national-wide program, so I imagine they all have very similar traits. They might have some different, because you might have a massive city like Houston. They're obviously going to have different, structure than a smaller city like Corpus does. But I'm just going to give you my experience with the housing authority. So from the start, you can either go on their website or you can go into the office and just tell them, hey, I want to be a new landlord. They have a package you have to fill out. It's not anything crazy. There's a thing called the landlord liaison that you'll try to get in touch with that person, because they're in charge of the landlord department. Don't try to go in there and try to talk to caseworkers and stuff like that, because their job is the tenants. You want to find the people that are in charge of dealing with the landlords. In Corpus, I think it was the last Friday of every month, I believe, they have a new landlord orientation, and they require you to go to at least one of those meetings if you want to be on the program. So that was really good to go in and see. That's where you learn a lot of the things. That's where I learned the bedroom hack from the get-go. I was like, well, wait a minute. If that's true, because they said all you have to have is a window, a light fixture, and an outlet, and it's considered a bedroom. And they told us that. And then I'm sitting there with my well, wait a minute. So I'm like, if you have an extra living room or dining room, then technically you don't have a one-bedroom apartment. You have a two-bedroom apartment. And the lady goes, oh yeah, that's true. Right in the middle of front of everybody. It was like a huge light bulb moment. So I've been using the bedroom hack since day one. If you didn't watch my short to see what it is, like I said, the bedroom hack is, say you have a two-bedroom house and you have an extra dining room or an extra living room, that can be considered a bedroom in Section 8 standards. So I'm getting paid pretty much most of my houses. My 3 bedrooms, I'm getting paid for 4 bedrooms, and down the line. If that person has a voucher that matches that, obviously. So after you go to the landlord liaison meeting, you get signed up. You then will have to send them like the deeds to your properties that you want to put on the program. And that's basically just proof of ownership. That's showing that, hey, this is my LLC or me owning the property. This is my proof of that. And then they put it in their system once, and then you never have to deal with it again. And then after that, so finding a tenant. So there's things like, it used to be gosection8.com, now it's affordablehousing.com. You can go on there and post your rentals and stuff like that. Again, every market's probably going to be different. I still get a lot of people that call me from Facebook or Zillow or anything like that, and I'll put right in on my listings on everything, vouchers accepted. A lot of it's actually through word of mouth, because a lot of these people know each other. The caseworkers will even give people, if they like you, they'll give them new tenants, like, hey, see if this guy has anything available. In Corpus, the big place is definitely Facebook. All of the groups and stuff like that, the Section 8 groups, or even just the rental groups in general. I find most of my Section 8 tenants from Facebook. But again, there is places like affordable housing. I even know some housing authorities actually have like their own website where you can post on there your listings and stuff like that, which is really cool. But Corpus is a smaller market, so they don't have that. So after you find a tenant, guys, you can screen Section 8 tenants the same way you screen normal tenants. And the caseworkers will tell you that. Hey, don't treat them differently. Treat them like a normal tenant. The only difference is the rent comes from the housing authority. And they will have a portion that they'll have to pay. You guys can email me or comment on there that you want a picture of a voucher, but I'll just blot out the information, and I'll send you what a picture of a voucher works. And how they do it is they take their income, and there's formulas for all this, and then it'll spit out a number at the end, like, hey, this is the max rent that they can get, and this is max rent including utilities. Like, they have all this formula given out, and you also will see what they're responsible for. There's a line on there that says max tenant pay as well. So you won't know exactly how much they're going to be responsible for until the HAP contract gets generated, which is housing assistance payment. At the end, after the tenant is ready to move in, the house passes inspection, the rent reasonableness is done, you'll get a HAP contract, and that'll show you the breakdown of who's paying what. Housing's paying this, the tenant's paying that. But we can go into that a little bit because that's a little bit towards the end. So this is what I do. I don't charge them an application fee. I just require them to show me the voucher, and that will have their name on everything I need on it anyways. So I'll take their voucher, make sure their max gross rent is obviously in the range that that unit is for, and then I screen them just like how I screen any other tenant. Very simple. And then say that they want it and you want to accept them. It's called a RAFTA packet, RFTA. So you will tell the tenant, you will give them your name, number, email, and the address of the property. And I usually will just text it to them and I'll tell them, hey, copy and paste this and send an email to your caseworker that, hey, I found a house. I want to start the RAFTA packet, which is the move-in packet, with this landlord. And it's just my information and stuff like that. And then the caseworker will go on, enter that information I gave them, and they'll email me on DocuSign the RAFTA packet. And then that's where you put in all the information and stuff like that. So there's a big misconception when people say, oh, my house is Section 8 approved, or it's just because your house and you gave them the deed showing you're the owner and it's in their system, that does not mean that it's approved for the program. Every house has to have an inspection done by an inspector. And in Corpus, there's only one inspector. So that's one of the big cons to me to housing, is that it does take 3 to 4 weeks to get a tenant in after you start the process. Like, you already found a tenant, they want the house, you want to accept them, you do the RAFTA packet, you complete it, they both the caseworker and the tenant signs off on it. It goes to the basically sits on the inspector's desk until he can get you in the schedule. And like I said, in Corpus, that's taking 3 to 4 weeks. So that's the one con to renting for sure. Section 8 is that process does take a little bit of time. And that's just me being fully transparent about it. But we'll get into inspection in a little bit. So the RAFTA packet, all it is a bunch of, like, it's you'll put in a lease. They want an unsigned lease, undated, so you don't date the lease. You fill out the lease normally how you normally would. Again, normal, whatever you put in your normal leases, put in that same lease, but it's unsigned, unexecuted, and there's no date. You just put TBD, and that gets attached to the RAFTA packet as well. After you finish all that stuff out, it gets back to them. Like I said, the caseworker signs it, tenant signs it. Now we're just waiting on the inspector. So the inspection process, by far the biggest pain in the butt when it comes to Section 8. They give you a little sheet that's literally this big that says, hey, these are our standards. It has to meet this. And it is literally the most basic thing. Like, you need smoke detectors. You need a fire extinguisher. You have to have a window in every bedroom. Like, super basic. I remember the first time the housing inspector came out, he was there for 45 minutes and he gave me probably 30 things that he wanted fixed to be able to get approved. Like, just the most stupid things that you would never think to do. And again, I can't speak for every housing authority. This is only in Corpus. And I do think it's because there is only one inspector that he might take advantage of that. Me and him have a great relationship, but I have a feeling from what I've heard from other investors that invest and have Section 8 in like Houston and San Antonio, their inspections are not like that. It's a lot easier as long as you're giving them a nice house in a good area and stuff like that. They definitely, they hop off a little bit. He's ex-military and he is by the book, he says. I mean, I remember the first property he walked up to, there was like an old bird's nest sitting on top of a piece of siding, like over one of the exterior lights. He's like, oh yeah, it fails because that's there. That's a safety hazard. I'm like, the bird's nest on the roof? He's like, yep. And I looked at him, I was just like, And then he walks in like the garage. And you know how garages, they're not finished out. They have exposed walls and they have, if you have wiring in there, it's just the wiring that's, still insulated, but it goes up to the ceiling. Yeah, you can't have any exposed wiring. So I had to put up plywood. He's like, I don't care what it looks like, you just can't see it. So he made me put up plywood all around all the wiring in the garage. Again, those are things that if you're renting to a normal tenant, you would not have to do. But again, very tedious. Like bedrooms and bathrooms can't have locking doorknobs. Not like an exterior doorknob. I mean like an interior normal doorknob. Like say you have a bathroom and you want to be able to lock your door, you can't have them in Section 8 houses because it's a safety hazard that a kid could lock himself in the bathroom. So again, that's something that in a normal house, I don't know. I would want my bedroom door to be able to lock, but in Section 8, can't have it. And it's nowhere on that sheet that you need to have not locking deadbolts or not locking interior doors. Again, so just you got to be patient with him. You'll learn what he'll do. From what I've heard, he's never passed any unit the first time. I have homes that we spent a ton of money, literally studs up remodels, and he'll come in and he'll still find 10 things that he wants changed because it doesn't meet his standards. So that's the most tedious part to the inspection process, or to the Section 8 process, is definitely the inspection. So after he passes it, the caseworker has to do their portion of it. They'll reach out to you and be like, hey, this unit passed inspection. Send me an executed lease. So then that's when you will send your lease to your tenant to have them sign. You collect a deposit, give them their keys, and they can move in at that point. And then from that day on, you're getting paid. So say it's the middle of the month, you won't get paid obviously right there. The following month, you'll see a back pay for June. Say it's July, you'll see a back pay for June, and then you'll also see July's rent in there as well. And every month they send you a sheet that breaks down exactly what your payments is, and you get paid in an ACH. It's between the first and the fifth, depending if there's holidays or weekends or whatever. But I've never seen it actually come on the fifth. But I guess if it was a perfect storm, like it was a holiday weekend and it was whatever, started on the first or started on the 28th and went to the first or whatever, I could see it. But it's never happened yet. And then also after she gives you okay to move in, and you send her the lease and stuff like that, that's when they generate the HAP contract, which is the housing assistance payment. So that's again a sheet that breaks down exactly who pays what utilities, who responsible for what, how much housing is paying, how much the tenant is responsible to pay, everything. And that goes to you, the tenant, and the caseworker, and they all sign off on it. And then once everybody signs that is when it goes back to housing, and they'll say, we will release the hold on that account. You will now begin receiving payments. And that's from that point on, you'll start receiving the payments for that. And that's pretty much it from start to finish. So little housekeeping things we can talk about. So every 2 years, they'll have an annual reinspection. So a bunch of my properties have been coming up for this because it's been, the second year that they've been in the program. So after the first year, it's not. So you'll just go to the tenant. I guess I can talk about that too. So there's a rental. This is one of my favorite parts about Section 8 is that when you raise their rent, I tell all my tenants this, hey, I won't raise your portion. If they give me this increase, I'm just going to accept their increase side. So I've yet to have housing deny any of my rental increases. So they need it 60 days before the lease is up. It's just a one-page form, super simple. And I kind of do since I have it in my leases where it's 60 days beforehand. So they have to tell me 60 days before the lease is up if they're moving or not. So at that same time, I'll take advantage of it and be like, hey, like I told you before, I'm not going to raise your rent, but I am going to ask for a rental increase to raise housing's portion of it. So it's a one-page form. Say the rent's $2,000, and I'm going to try to get $2,150 now. I've never had housing deny one of those rental increases, which I think is a huge, huge bonus. And this is another cool part too. So say their voucher is, because a lot of my homes are obviously remodeled and in nice areas. So there are some times where I might take a voucher holder and it might be $50, $100 less than if I rented it to another person, but I prefer to rent it to housing just because I know it's guaranteed rent. So say like there's a one instance, there's a house I probably could have got like $1,800 for it, and this girl's voucher was only like 1737 was her voucher. It was a 3 bedroom, and I want the voucher obviously, and this is why, because even if her max voucher at that time was 1737, when it's up for her year lease and I ask for 1850, they'll still accept it if it's within their parameters, or they say even if her voucher was only for 1737 last year and the rental increase I ask is 1850. So you're not stuck at 1737 throughout their whole lease. And I know that. But there's nothing worse than like having a good tenant and you don't want to raise their rent because they've been such a good tenant. But at the same time, like I knew if I had a Section 8 tenant in there, I'd be able to raise their rent and it wouldn't affect them. Like there's probably 30 to 40% of my voucher holders that pay $0. Housing pays all of their rent, which is my favorite because when I go ask for rental increases, I don't even have to tell them anything because housing's the whole rental increase is going to be on housing. So that's why I'm okay with sometimes taking a haircut even up front because I know, hey, next year and the years following, when I ask for these rental increases, they're going to get accepted. And I'm not going to have to ask a good tenant that I don't want to leave for more money. There's nothing worse than that. Yes, there's strategies. You can go show them, hey, this is market rent. You guys have been great. But there's still that chance that when you say, hey, I'm going to raise your rent, that it might push them away, especially if they were a great tenant. So I that's a big thing to me with Section 8 is that when I have to do those rental increases, I don't have to raise the tenant's actual rent. I'm just getting more from housing. So huge bonus there with Section 8. What was I started on? Oh, so we're at a year. So after a year, you're going to do your rental adjustment 60 days before your lease is up with your lease, and then you're going to send it to their caseworker. Or no, it goes to the landlord liaison. Hey, this is, this person's house at this address. This tenant, she wants to stay for another year. Here is the executed lease, and here is the rental adjustment. And then that will get through, and they'll do it every year. The tenant has to do a recertification. Like, do they change jobs, or do they get a job, do they lose their job, whatever it is. That gets done in a year as well. And then the next year is when the biannual inspection will be. So that's when your 2-year inspection is. So you'll get a letter from or an email from the inspector saying, hey, the biannual inspection is coming up for this unit. Here's the date and time. You can be there or not be there. What I will do is I'll send my worker like a couple days before the inspection to go check to make sure the smoke alarms are there. Is there any damage done or anything that's on the owner that I'm gonna have to fix? And we try to get that stuff taken care of. And it's really like because they took the batteries out of the smoke alarms and the fire extinguisher walked away or whatever it is. So they go do that. If there's any actual damage to the unit that was done by the tenant, when he goes and does his biannual inspection and he like, hey, it failed for this, he'll put right on there. There's a section for like responsibility, and it would be like tenant, owner. Like say the grass was like super overgrown. Well, if it's in your lease that the tenant is responsible to maintain the grass, that'll be on the tenant. And then when he comes back to do the re-inspection, if they didn't fix one of the things that he did, they have potentially can lose their voucher. So again, it's kind of a cool thing, kind of like the quality control inspection I talked about before. Basically, every 2 years you're getting that, but it's from the inspector. And then what else is there for inspections? So a couple other like housekeeping things. If a tenant does want to move out, you can break the lease with them. Like I had it happen one time where this tenant moved in and immediately, super big headache. And I told her, I'm like, hey, please, you can go. You can break the lease. So it's a mutual agreement to terminate is the form that the housing authority will send you, and then you both sign it, and then it basically issues them a new moving voucher, and then you will continue to get paid until they move. And once they move, obviously it goes away. So that's one thing. Another thing, give you a little more background of how the program works. So every time a tenant wants to move somewhere, they have to be issued a new voucher. It's called a move. We call it a moving voucher. So if you get somebody who's interested in one of your properties, and this happens very often, they're like, "Hey, my lease is coming up in 3 weeks. I need to, I want to look at your house." Don't waste your time. They will not be able to move into your house in those 3 weeks. One, because like I said, it takes 3 or 4 weeks for the inspection to get done, but also they didn't even start the move out process yet. And with the move out process, how it goes, they will send the landlord a form, and it's basically going to say, like, do they owe you any money? Is there any damages? Anything like that. And they give you 7 to 10 business days to fill out that form. And they can't issue a moving voucher until that form is completed. So if this girl's lease ends in 2 weeks and she wants to move in 2 weeks, she won't be able to, because she has to go through and get her moving voucher, which typically will take 3 to 4 weeks to do. By the time you get the form back from the landlord, the caseworker does the paperwork, and then they issue you a new moving voucher. So that's why I always ask for a voucher up front. And if they send me like their old voucher, you can ask them, "Hey, is this an updated voucher?" Like, "Oh no, that's the one I used when I moved into this house." That voucher is invalid. It's not usable anymore. Because one, the amounts will change on it depending on if they got a job, or if the natural market appreciation, the value of rent goes up, it will change every year. Same thing for like a utility allowance. When I used to start, it was like 100 for 1 bedrooms, 200 for 2 bedrooms, and so on and so on. Now it's changed. Now like a 4 bedroom is like, I think it's 500 or 450, because they know utility prices are going up, so they have to factor in that into the utility allowance. So that's how the moving process works. They have to be issued a moving voucher before they can move. So, little tidbit, just trying to save some guys some time, because I went through that at first too. It was like, okay, great, yeah, you want to move? Oh yeah, I'll send you the voucher, and it's their crumpled up piece of paper that they got from when they moved 5 years ago or whatever it is. So it's like, yeah, this is not valid anymore. You have to get a moving voucher. And that's the same process for if a tenant wants to move out. That's how it is. Where they're going to send you a form, you have to fill out the form. Guys, go inspect the units beforehand. Because as soon as you cut that off, they're like, "Oh yeah, no, she hasn't paid. Here's that we past due balance. The place looks good." As soon as you send that in, you're basically relieving the tenant of any damage. Which, that's one flaw I don't like, because all their stuff's going to still be in there. Like, as a landlord, you should not do any inspection to give security deposits back until all of their stuff is out. I don't know how many times that's happened to me in the beginning, where a tenant would be like, "Oh, hey, we want our security deposit back like on the first." And I'll tell them like, "Hey, you guys just moved out." Or they ask to come do the inspection beforehand. It's like, no, all of your stuff needs to be out before I walk that property for the inspection, because very easy I just had a tenant do that. Very easy to hide stuff with your personal belongings. And I should have noticed it. It was like a big carpet, like an obnoxiously big carpet in this one room, and I didn't notice it while I was doing, my move out inspection or whatever. Sure, as soon as they left, that carpet was, covering up a bunch of wood rot, that they had a water leak and didn't say anything, that they would have been responsible for if I would have saw it. And obviously I did, because I waited till after they moved out to get their security deposit back. So I was able to keep their security deposit because I saw it. But if I would have went through and saw it and said, "Yeah, okay, here, the place looks good. Here's your security deposit," and then the day of moving, they move that carpet, you're never going to be able to get that money back. So, well, I think that pretty much wraps it up. So that's the Section 8 process from start to finish. I can't really think of anything else that I would push or for against the Section 8. That's pretty much it. So if you have any more questions about Section 8, I do a ton of Section 8. I probably have probably 60 to 70% of my portfolio is Section 8 right now. And I do rent to some traditional people just because I like to have some kind of balance just in case, there's lots of talks of all the Section 8s being defunded and all that stuff. I personally don't think it's going to happen. We already have a housing shortage. I don't think they can kick out the 8 million families or whatever it is that are on the voucher program. I think it would cause huge turmoil. I think it'd be such a nasty political look. I don't think they'll ever do it. I do think they'll change around maybe the funding a little bit. If anything, I would think they'll probably make the tenants pay more, or maybe they'll just slow down issuing new vouchers. I guess that's one thing we didn't talk about, how vouchers get issued. So at least for corporates, it's on a lottery. I think there's like a 5,000 person backlog waiting list to get vouchers here. And it's a lottery. So I know some people that they applied for, like the next year they got a voucher. And I know people that had been in the voucher, they've been in that program for 10 years and still don't have a voucher. So if someone approaches you and says, oh yeah, I just filled out all my paperwork to get the voucher, guys, don't waste your time. Wait till they get the voucher in hand. Because some people are impromptu educated, thinking that all they have to do is fill this paperwork out and be able to fit those qualifications. That means that they're guaranteed to get a voucher. They're not guaranteed to get a voucher just because they meet all the qualifications for a voucher. They still need to be a voucher issued. And also, they only issue them in certain parts of the years. They get like new budgets for them, and for that year, most of those vouchers will be issued within like a couple months. And then after that, they call it a freeze. There's no more vouchers being issued during that freeze. So, but all right, guys, that wraps it up. Any questions about Section 8? Comment, shoot me a DM. Please subscribe if you like the content. It helps me out a lot. Tell your friends about it. All right, guys, I'll see you.